Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah, and this episode is about 3 notes on creativity. 3 things that you may want to think about when you are creating magic, making routines, putting stuff out in the world. And I kind of got the inspiration from this episode because I'm currently listening on audiobook to Quincy Jones's new book, 12 Notes on Life and Creativity. And if you don't know, Quincy Jones is a famous American record producer, songwriter, composer, arranger, film and television producer. He is just a legend in the world of music. And he's been walking through his notes on creativity. And I pulled together 3 notes, 3 things that I have learned from doing this about how I am creative in magic. And these are some of the notes that I learned from actually doing this and from learning the hard way. I struggled for many, many years about how to be creative with magic, and I still struggle, but certainly now I'm able to output more and better than I ever have before. So here are 3 notes on creativity that might help you on your magic journey. Note number 1. Clarity comes from action and not thought. You know, when you are coming up with an idea or when you are working on something, it really feels like you're gaining ground just sitting there thinking about stuff or sitting there and shuffling or playing or toying with things. And it is possible, you know, these are just sort of my opinions and my takes on these things. But for me, it always feels like I'm making headway, but I'm not actually making headway. You know, maybe I'm watching old videos of people doing the trick and it feels like I'm making headway, but I'm not actually making headway. You only gain ground when you do the thing. And anybody who's worked closely with me in the mastermind or elsewhere in the world of magic knows that I am more of a shoot first, aim later kind of guy. You know, you have to actually put something down on the drawing board and do something, and then you've got something to play with. And I'm not sure why that is. I mean, obviously the more you do something, the more that it has a bigger impact. But I also think that when you actually do the thing, when you put it out, when you record it, when you perform it, when you share it, when you make it, you grow a little bit more attached to it and you start to see the idea for what it really is. So a lot of the times it can feel like you're working on something, but you can drain hours and hours and hours doing things that sort of feel like work, but they're not actually anything. Like I was giving some examples earlier, but another example is like, you know, watching lots of videos about the thing or toying with the trick or the cards or the moment or whatever. And I find that I learn 10 times more, 100 times more when I'm actually doing the thing. So my advice for you is do the thing. Put your V1 down by writing something or recording something or just get something down on paper. And then as soon as you can, do the thing. Do it for real people. Maybe do it for a friend. Maybe record a video of yourself doing it or trying it, even if it feels too early. You know, you don't need to publish it and share it with a million people. You just have to find a place to do the thing. Whether it's an open mic night, whether it's doing it for a friend, whether it's just videoing it and doing it for yourself, clarity comes from action and not thought. I always feel like I'm going to think my way out of a problem, or I'm going to think my way out of a situation, but really it comes from doing the thing. So my first note on creativity is that clarity comes from action and not thought. You will not think your way out of a problem. You will not think your way into a brand new idea. You are more likely going to play your way into a new idea. Tip number 2 is that limitation breeds creativity. I find it impossible to create when you have nothing that you can draw on, when you've got no bounds that you are between. And for myself, when I think about my show and any growth that has ever happened in my show, they've come from one of 2 things. They've either come from a deadline, so I need to get this fixed or updated before I perform in this place, or oh my gosh, I need X amount of minutes, but I only have Y amount of minutes, so I need to add this trick or that trick. Or it comes from an obvious hole that is in my act, like, wow, I don't have an opener, or wow, this isn't as great of a closer, or, you know, I really want to do a trick with a bill because people still have bills on them, but I don't know which one. And that generally has been a way bigger motivating factor, or maybe not motivating, but it's been a way more likely factor in me being able to actually pull something together when I have a box that I'm trying to work within. I'll talk about the bill for a second. I now have a bill trick that I published in my lecture notes, which is 2 bill changes and a bill to impossible location that happens all in one trick. And I only came up with that because I knew that I wanted to do a bill trick. And then I started uncovering some of the problems with a bill change. Like you borrow a 5, you turn it into 100, then they want it, and then you have to change it back. So there's some issues with a bill change, or at least for me, those were issues. And I had to start hacking away at problem solving. So the box that you're creating in gets smaller and smaller and smaller. First, I'm like, okay, I know I want to do a bill trick. I'm not sure if I want a bill change. I'm not sure if I want a bill to impossible location, but I know that I want to do a bill trick. And then I start reading and looking at routines and watching videos, and the box gets a little bit smaller. I'm like, I don't want to do it like that. This is a problem. That's a problem. And then all of a sudden you strike gold. You come up with an idea, but the reality is, going back to the first thing, is this idea only came to light because I tried it and I did it and I did it in the real world. And I said, you know what? That is it. And I probably tried 4 or 5 different versions of bill tricks. I had one where a bill kept changing currency. I had one where there was a bill swapping places from one envelope to another. And then I ended up on this one, which, like I said, is 2 bill changes and a bill to impossible location. And I've had quite a bit of runtime with it. So my piece of advice is aim to solve a problem. I want to do something with this. I want to do something with that. I have to get it done by this deadline. I have to aim to solve a problem. And the more likely it is that you have limitations, or rather the more limitations that you have, the more likely it is that you're going to actually produce something. Aim to solve a problem with your show, your act, your trick. In general, you're going to gain more ground than just making for the sake of making. Every single one of the creations that I've ever made that I'm proud of have either come from a hole that I need to fill. I need a bill trick. I want to do more classic magic. I want to do less mentalism and more magic with props, or either and a deadline, and need to get it done by this date because I have this show, or I need to get it done by this date because that's when I committed to doing this thing. So limitations breed creativity. Do not give yourself endless time for endless options to come up with something. You will end up with nothing. You will end up with a hot mess. Instead, give yourself things like deadlines, specific props, spots in your show. Really make sure that you know that you have the space that you're looking to fill, and you will come up with something special. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, this is one that I actually have come to realize more recently, is that my best ideas come from my past ideas. Whenever I am creating for TV show, for a project, for a problem, it is so much easier for me to reach back into something that I've already done in some way, shape, or form and modify it than it is for me to come up with something brand new. It's like I had a first draft somewhere. I did some of the legwork to better understand the prop, the routining, the timing, whatever, and now I'm just adding a twist to it and changing it. The trick that we did on Penn and Teller's Fool Us was a version of a trick that we did for a YouTube video. The bill trick, which I was just talking about, was a version of a trick that I was playing with for a very long time. There's a new trick that we're working on right now, Ben and I, which is a version of a trick that we used to do in our virtual show. It's kind of like a paradox that you have to draw on stuff that you've already done to come up with something new, because then it's like, well, how do I come up with something new if I'm already drawing on stuff that I've already done? So my advice is find low stakes environment that you can play and you can try things at. And it's sort of the same advice you've heard before, but for a different reason. I think a lot of people say this because they want you to get the airtime. They want you to perform, get the actual time doing the stuff. But for me, it's almost like go get some first drafts there and out of the way so that when you actually have to create something, you have examples to draw on and that you've actually laid a little bit bit of the groundwork that you can pull from. So whether you're getting a chance to perform on open mic nights, whether you are putting out a video, like a short form video with a new trick, whether you have like a weekly jam where you show up with magicians and present something to each other, you want to get some of these first drafts under your belt so that when the time comes that you want to actually create something and fill those gaps that we're talking about, you're not starting completely fresh, but you're pulling from a short list of ideas that you have used before. So having a low stakes place to actually try stuff is great, not just so that you can try, but so that later you can draw on it. And when I'm preparing for like a TV show or a spot or a new trick, more likely than not, I am pulling from some half-baked idea that was from months ago or years ago that I actually have some mileage in, than it is that I'm coming up with something brand new that I've never, ever done before. So my advice is not only that my best ideas come from past ideas, and I think that yours may be similar, but find a place to come up with those first draft ideas so that later, when the time comes, when it's important, you have some first drafts that you can pull from and then start working on and tweaking and playing with. So there are my 3 tips, my 3 notes on creativity. Number 1, clarity comes from action, not thought. You will not think your way out of a problem. You will not think your way into a creative solution. You're going to play or do or make your way into it. Actually start doing it with the props. Show people. Actually video yourself. Actually write. Don't think about writing. Write. Our brains are really good at coming up with stuff, but they're also really good at forgetting. So clarity comes from action, not thought. You're not going to think your way out of anything. You are going to do your way out of something. You're going to solve it by doing something, not by thinking about it. That's number 1. Number 2, limitations breed creativity. The smaller box that you're working in, the more likely it is that you're actually going to generate something. If you could do any trick with any props, that's any amount of time, for any environment, then it's very difficult to start coming up with something that's great. And for anything to really feel like it's right, for anything to really feel like it scratches the itch. But if you know that you're coming up with a 2-minute trick with apples for TV that is performed in an environment that looks like this or looks like that, all of a sudden the box gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and now you start coming up with a lot of ideas. You can draw on different things you know about tricks with props or fruits or objects and TV and things like that. So tip number 2 is limitation breeds creativity. And tip number 3 is that your best ideas will come from your past ideas. So whenever you are creating, instead of looking into the void, you may want to look back at things that you've played with, tried, experimented with, things that have been in your universe already to give you that first draft that you can start editing and make something great. And on the flip side, if you're not in the spot right now where you have a deadline, a project, a problem to solve to draw on those past options, then do the opposite. Now is your time to start doing some first drafts. Put out some short form videos. Put out a short form magic trick every week. You now have a deadline, so you have something to create, and who cares if some of them are good and some of them are bad? They are a library of first drafts that you'll be able to pull back and use later on down the line when you need to be creative and when you have big opportunities that you need to make something new for a deadline. I hope these 3 were helpful for you. Please let me know if you use them, agree, disagree, hate me, love me, I don't care. But most importantly, if this, not only this episode, but this podcast is something that you think other people should know, then please spread the word, tell a friend, post about it in your local club's magic Facebook group. They will think you're smart for doing it, and I will be grateful that we got to make new friends. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you learned something on creativity, and I will see you next Thursday. Ciao!